this is my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so in this episode, Yukako is having a bit of a hard time with the whole being away from Koichi thing. We saw that in the last arc about how she's been watching Koichi from a distance and is seems to be a little depressed that Koichi won't even glance her way, and it comes to a head in this episode. So Koichi has been kind of sort of avoiding her for a while, and even though she's been watching him from a distance and keeping him in her heart, she thought that would be enough. It's quickly dawning on her that isn't enough. She wants Koichi in her life, and she's determined to make that happen. But she realizes that with what happened between them, namely that she kidnapped his ass, she's a little hesitant as to whether or not Koichi would ever actually fall in love with her. It's at this point where she comes across a boutique called Cinderella, which true to its name has the slogan that anybody who comes in there will be able to find love. And while Yukako is initially skeptical, suddenly a woman bursts through the door, exclaiming that her lover proposed to her that same day, and thanks the owner of the shop, Aya Tsuji, for providing her with the means to actually capture her lover's heart. At which point Aya spies Yukako watching her and points out that she looks like the kind of person who's looking for love and invites her inside, and Yukako reluctantly agrees. Unaware that the Kira guy from a couple of episodes ago was actually spying on them, and then goes on his merry way. So yeah, I get the feeling Aya Tsuji is going to come back at some point when and if they properly introduce this guy. But yeah, he's gonna be. But yeah, Yukako comes in and sits down, and Aya immediately offers her a contract and some pricings. And Yukako immediately objects to signing anything, pointing out that she hasn't really agreed to whether or not she'll actually go through with whatever's going to happen. And Aya points out that she's actually pretty good with physiognomy, and that she can easily adjust a person's face to make them more appealing and actually help them capture someone's heart. And points out that Yukako is beautiful, but her eyes and eyebrows kind of make guys shy away from her and run in fear, which Yukako immediately realizes that is what happens between her and Koichi, and is a little amazed that Aya is able to spy that just by looking at her and figure that out. At which point Aya pulls up her computer and begins using a special program she created to basically create a new face for Yukako, using a special software to emulate different eyes and try to figure out which one would be more likely to draw the person of her interest in. And we know it's Koichi, so I'm not gonna say Koichi, but Aya doesn't know it's Koichi. So at this point in the story, so in any case, Aya decides to claim to use massage therapy to actually physically change Yukako's face, which you should know is impossible, and that turns out it is. As she prepares to go into her massage, Aya has Yukako close her eyes and then reveals to the audience that she is actually secretly a stand user and summons her stand, which does something to Yukako's face, although we never actually see what it is. But in any case, after the encounter at Cinderella, she begins to go out wondering if the enchantment is actually going to work, and as she's contemplating that in her mind, she accidentally bumps into Koichi, who remarks that he's noticed that she's been sad for a while, and points out that he can't stand to see her sad, and points out that she really shouldn't worry about the whole problem, what happened between them. As Koichi remarks, it doesn't really bother him much anymore, and that he hopes that they can at the very least start over. And Yukako is happy to hear this and offers to go get something to drink with Koichi, as long as Koichi is willing to go. And Koichi, while a little shocked at first, and notably a little hesitant, eventually decides to go with her, and they go to drink some parfaits. And in the process, Koichi almost drops his parfait, and they both reach out to catch it, and their hands touch. But around the half an hour mark, which is when Aya says her thing will stop working, and we know it's her stand power at this point. Aya points immediately then, when exactly at the half hour, Koichi has a stomach ache and accidentally grabs Yukago's bag before leaving. At which point Yukiko falls into dismay, pointing out that she is a little upset by the fact that it doesn't last more than 30 minutes, and immediately goes back to confront Aya at her salon, pointing out that she wants her power to last that she wants whatever she did to last more than 30 minutes, since that's not nearly enough time to spend with Koichi. And Aya points out that in order to make her enchantment last longer, she would need to do something with Yukiko's entire body, and has her lay down mostly naked on the table except for a little cloth that's covering her, and proceeds again to ask Yukiko to close her eyes while she summons her stand. But Yukiko had immediately deduced that it was indeed a stance power that was causing her abilities, and uses Love Deluxe to restrain Aya, but then decides against it, pointing out that if Aya wanted to kill her, she would have, and proceeds to let her go forward with the operation, which Aya happily accepts and uses her enchantment on Yukiko. Immediately after which point does the Koichi's stomachache stop after seeing Yukiko pass him, and he realizes that he actually did indeed grab Yukiko's bag, and proceeds to give it back to her, and point out that they swapped bags at some point. At which point Yukiko again proceeds to try and ask Koichi out on another date, but around that time, Rohan interrupts and asks Koichi to go to a salon, to a boutique with him, which Koichi is more than happy to do. He's more than happy to go shopping with Rohan, even though he's a little hesitant, since Rohan is kind of iffy. The relationship's a little bit iffy, but Koichi is more than willing to help out Rohan if he needs to. And Yukiko was understandably upset because she thought that Koichi would belong to her forever. And Aya even pointed that out when they last met. So she immediately calls up. And to make matters worse, even more of Koichi's friends and loved ones begin showing up, including Koichi's mother. So, and they all proceed to go to the boutique together. So, and Yukiko immediately calls up Aya and asks her what's going on. And Aya remarks that Cinderella's powers only work based on... Yeah, the stand is called Cinderella, obviously. Because the entire thing with Aya is that she believes herself to be a fairy godmother, and naturally named her stand after the book in universe, even though it's named after the music piece. It's iffy. It's a little iffy, but it works. But in any case, she remarks that Cinderella works on the heart, and Koichi's heart undoubtedly belongs to her, but also points that his psyche is most likely blocking her out, and asks her if anything happened between them, and indeed there did. There was an entire arc about it, about how Yukiko once kidnapped Koichi, and Aya remarks that it's most likely that incident that's keeping Koichi from truly being hers. So in any case, she just kind of follows all of Koichi and the rest of the Joestar group up to this point to the store where Rohan is going shopping, and in the process Rohan is snapping pictures of something to say for later use, and which upsets Shizuka, who was there with Joseph, and Joseph immediately points out that Shizuka is starting to panic. And turns invisible. They did name the baby, by the way. She's a good Joestar, but but he remarks that she's immediately beginning to panic and gets her outside before anything bad can happen. And in the process, they actually bump into Koichi, which causes him to land in Yukiko's arms, and they two have a tender moment and kiss. So, yeah, it's a cute little moment. It just kind of solidifies their relationship at long last. But even though there was a thing between them, it shows that Yukiko and Koichi are willing to let bygones be bygones in this episode. So it does kind of feel earned here. But in any case, after a few days, Koichi tells Josuke and Yokoyasu what happened about how they kissed and how Koichi may have fallen in love with Yukiko, and Josuke is notably very shocked so shocked that he almost falls out the window, and it's only because of his stand that he's able to be saved at all. And Yokoyasu begins bawling, pointing out how beautiful it is that the two have sort of reconciled their differences and started dating. But Koichi points out that that's not what the weird part is. The weird part is Yukiko hasn't been seen in a few days, and that's a little bit concerning and weird since everybody knows up to this point that Yukiko, while a little off, definitely is dedicated to loving Koichi more than anything else, and the fact that she hasn't shown up in a few days is kind of weird. And Josuke remarks that they probably shouldn't get involved, so they send Koichi to do it, but point out that they'll be at his beck and call and will come to his aid if anything happens. So with that, Koichi leaves to go find Yukiko, and he runs into her, sort of. So he runs into her, but at this point, her fate, because of the enchantments and because she didn't do what Aya asked to keep the enchantments active, which is namely to put some lipstick on her face and every 30 minutes or so to keep the enchantment from wearing off. Yukiko's eyes have completely melted. She doesn't even look like Yukiko anymore, and Koichi immediately thinks that he has the wrong person, and indeed Yukiko dismisses him, pointing out that he does indeed have the wrong person, and Koichi just kind of leaves. At which point Yukiko realizes that that's entirely the fault of Aya, and immediately goes to confront her in her shop, pointing out that she did this to her, that she should have worked harder on it, and that Koichi has been driven away because of her, and she needs to fix it. But Aya points out that she can't. According to her, not only did Yukiko not follow her instructions and not use the enchantment that she was provided, and not put the lipstick on her face every 30 minutes to keep the enchantment active, but because she didn't do that, her body is actually falling apart, and to make matters worse, her original parts have been lost, so she can't actually fix it. And at which point Yukiko begins to get into a fight with Aya over it, but right at that moment, Koichi pokes his head in, pointing out that he knows that's Yukiko. And while Yukiko initially tries to brush it off and dismiss him again, Koichi points out that he's not so easily fooled, and he knows how Yukiko behaves, and that her brash personality is actually her brash and tough personality is actually what caused him to become infatuated with her in the first place. And she realizes that, and Aya, realizing that Koichi does genuinely love her, decides to give Yukiko a second chance as per true fairy godmother. As it turns out, while Yukiko's original eyes are no longer around, her Cinderella has memorized every single piece of body part that has been used by it, and every single body part it has replaced has been memorized by the stand. So, and sure enough, asks Yukiko to choose and find her real face, pointing out that if she does, she will restore her face back to normal. But if she doesn't, she'll be forced to live with the luck that face represents forever. And there's a trick to this. Aya hasn't actually put out her original face. She's put out a bunch of fakes, and the second Yukiko figures that out, she will restore her face for real. So basically, Yukiko has no losing chance. Yukiko is basically at a disadvantage here. She has to guess what her face actually is, and she knows it better than anyone because she looks at it in the mirror every day, but she's second guessing herself a lot here and can't actually figure out which one it actually is. And eventually, she stops trying and asks Koichi to do it, pointing out that if Koichi truly loves her, he'll be able to figure out which one is her actual face. And Koichi agrees, but also as a consolation, should he pick the wrong face, asks Aya to blind him via their stands, and should he choose wrong, pointing out that Yukiko wouldn't want him looking upon her face if it wasn't her face. But in any case, Koichi picks a set of eyes and gives it to Yukiko, pointing out that he's pretty sure that those are it. And she puts them in, and they fit perfectly, and her face is restored. Although it's revealed that it was actually Aya's doing. As we've already established, it should have been physically impossible for Koichi to actually pick the right set of eyes to actually restore to Yukiko's face. But because she believes herself to be a fairy godmother, and also because she didn't want to play the role of antagonist, she decides to restore Yukiko's face regardless of what choice Koichi actually picked. So, yeah, basically because Koichi decided to get involved, as it were, Aya basically just decided to relent and give Yukiko her face back anyway. And in any case, as this episode, Yukiko and Koichi are now dating, which is cute. So, yeah, this episode is just kind of Koichi and Yukiko letting bygones be bygones and finally starting an actual meaningful relationship, which is something that has been building for a while. Yukiko openly remarks that she wants to love Koichi for who he is rather than who he could be, which is something that has been building for a while. And obviously Koichi was up to this point was still very much afraid of Yukiko. So this is some character development for him. He's finally learned that he's finally learned through Aya's enchantments that Yukiko, while a little scary, isn't a bad person. She does have an interesting personality, and she is genuinely in love with Koichi, and Koichi finally figures that out in this episode, and that's what enables him to finally help her with her problems and love her for who she is, and just let everything that happened to them be swept under the rug, and they can start over. So, yeah, that's just the end of the episode. It was a cute episode. I enjoyed it. So, yeah. And also that Kira guy was involved in the story again. I'm assuming he's going to eventually play a major role going forward. Actually, I think next episode, actually. I think he's eventually going to play a major role in an episode going forward, because they teased him, which means he's probably going to show up again. But yeah. In any case, that's my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps you out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!